Welcome to CIS 579. This is Chapter 2, E-commerce Mechanisms, Infrastructures, and Tools out of Electronic Commerce, a Managerial and Social Networks Perspective, 2012. The learning objectives for this chapter are to describe the major electronic commerce activities and processes and the mechanisms that support them, to define e-marketplaces and list their components, to list the major types of e-marketplaces and describe their features, to describe electronic catalogs, search engines, and shopping carts, to describe the major types of auctions and list their characteristics, to discuss the benefits and limitations of e-auctions, to describe bartering and negotiating online, to describe virtual communities, list the major Web 2.0 tools and their use in e-commerce, to describe social networks as an e-commerce mechanism, to understand virtual worlds and their use in e-commerce, and lastly, to describe Web 3.0 and define Web 4.0. In general, e-commerce activities can be broken up into about 6 different categories. For example, one of them could be presence, the physical presence or virtual presence, if you will, of an organization online. Basically, to get their name out there, to create awareness about a brand, about a product, about a company. Another one is basically an exchange as a mechanism to be able to trade, buy, sell, etc. Another category might be to be able to communicate. So establishing websites where you've got the ability to chat, where you've got email directories and things of that nature to be able to exchange information. Entertainment. Think YouTube. Stuff where you can go and get content simply for the point of entertainment. To be able to improve performance, to be able to easily and quickly exchange information regarding orders, regarding transactions, and things of that nature in order to improve the efficiency of an organization. And then lastly, there are various other activities, things that companies might do to try to recruit, for example, potential employees or potential customers, things of that nature. Now, all these different categories are supported by several different mechanisms, or one or more different mechanisms identified in the text. Electronic markets, storefronts, malls, portals, things like that, a place for customers to actually go and make those purchases. E-catalogs, search engines, e-auctions, Web 2.0 technologies involving things like social networks, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. Virtual worlds, order processing, payment support, the ability to actually be able to conduct the transactions that we need. Now, if you boil down the supply chain as a whole, essentially you can kind of look at it in 3 parts. You've got buyers, you've got sellers, and then you've got the transactions that occur between them. And while the purchasing process may be different from industry to industry, there certainly are some commonalities in that purchasing process. So that purchasing process, really the most common way of doing that is basically purchasing at fixed prices from some type of catalog. We find a good or a service that's available through a website or through a search engine. The price is listed, and we can either make the decision to purchase or not purchase that particular good or service at a fixed price. In some cases, we may be able to negotiate or get some type of a discounted price for volume or something of that nature. Another way to determine price is through dynamic pricing, which refers to non-fixed prices such as those in auctions or stock. In other words, there's not a set price. We can either, depending on the type of auction, whether it's a normal auction or a reverse auction, we can either bid up the price or we can have the price bidded down, depending on our perspective. So here's a graphical representation of those e-commerce activities and the various mechanisms that help to support those activities. And a graphical representation of our e-commerce participants and the various components. Again, this is really a simplified version or perspective of the supply chain, where we've got basically suppliers and we've got customers, and then we're presumably somewhere in the middle. If you'll take a look at the image, you'll look on the supplier side. really the supply chain is much more complicated than just having a supplier and a customer. Suppliers oftentimes are made up of multiple layers of suppliers. So suppliers that are providing raw materials, various supporting supplies, components where some supplies have already been pre-assembled, or finished goods. So suppliers can come in all shapes and sizes. And they're going to conduct B2B transactions with us, assuming that we're the ones in the middle. As far as our customers, customers can come from all over the place. They can be individuals, they can be other businesses, they can be the government. And so we can see a variety of different types of transactions occurring between our company again and those customers. So they could be B2B if they're a business, B2C if they're a customer, or B2G if they're the government. Here we have the buying process in an e-market. Now, this may differ from industry to industry or organization to organization, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty similar from one organization to another. And in a lot of ways, it mimics what you might see in the physical world, though there may be some subtle differences or things that are more transparent than others that you don't really notice, but they do occur. But if you put yourself in the eyes of the purchaser, obviously you've got to enter the shop somehow, right? Whether it's a physical store or it's an online store, you go to a search engine and you put in a search for a product, or you go to the bestbuy.com or walmart.com and you start looking around for a product. You may have to register before you can do anything, but you start looking through their e-catalog. You can begin the search process. You can try to evaluate that particular product. You may compare it with other ones, and you either decide, no, that really isn't going to do what I need it to do, so you abandon it, or you do more research, or you go ahead and decide, I'm going to make that purchase. So you add it to your cart. You put it in your shopping cart if you're at the grocery store, or you put it into your virtual shopping cart if you're online. Then you go through the checkout process. You produce your credit card to execute payment. Again, if it's online, it needs to be shipped to you, whether it's a download process because it's digital, or it physically needs to be shipped. You can select that shipping option. You verify payment and make sure that everything's correct, and then go ahead and submit it. So that's kind of all the normal things that you have to do when you're making a purchase. We also have a lot of post-shopping activities that occur. We want to verify that an item was shipped, and we have to wait for the item. We verify that the item was actually delivered. Post follow-up may include verifying, are you happy with your purchase? Did it arrive in one piece? Did it arrive in a timely fashion? Things of that nature. Where do these transactions occur? Traditionally, they would, in the online environment at least, they would occur in some type of an e-marketplace. Much like you might go to the mall to purchase goods and services from various stores, we can go to an e-marketplace in order to be able to make purchases online. So an e-marketplace is an online market, usually a B2B market, in which buyers and sellers exchange goods or services. The three types of e-marketplaces are private, public, and consortia. So how open are they? Are they private, so they're really limited to select buyers and sellers? Are they public, so that they're open to everybody, which is usually what we're familiar with in the B2C market? And then consortia, again, where it's really relatively limited in terms of who the participants are. Components of and the participants in e-marketplaces include a market space itself, a marketplace in which the sellers and buyers exchange goods and services for money or for other goods and services, but do so electronically. But there's more to it than just that. Marketplaces also include customers, sellers, products and services, whether they're digital or not, it really is irrelevant. But digital products, goods that can be transformed to digital format and delivered over the internet. And then there's the infrastructure itself. These marketplaces oftentimes provide legal and regulatory structures that really help to facilitate transactions that need to occur or that are occurring. And marketplaces include things like front ends, back ends, and intermediaries. The front end is really what you as a consumer see or another business sees when they're trying to make a purchase. It's how they view their shopping cart. It's how they search for various goods and services. It's how they view directories and things of that nature. The back end is really what handles some of the support services, so that tends to be less seen by outsiders and is really more on the back end of this for the seller. Um, provides support for online order fulfillment, inventory management, purchasing for suppliers. So a lot of those back-end functions that a business requires in order to be able to deliver those goods and services to their customers. And the next, the intermediary, a third party that operates between the sellers and the buyers. The next slide talks about that in a little bit more detail. E-marketplaces provide the opportunity for disintermediation and reintermediation. Disintermediation is the elimination of intermediaries between sellers and buyers. And this is really what the promise of the web was initially, or e-commerce was initially, the ability to remove the middleman, the ability to remove those that are in the middle of the supply chain that, in order to survive, have to necessarily take a profit, a piece of the pie, so to speak, thus driving up the end cost to the consumer. So the promise was is that if we eliminate those players from that supply chain, that the profit that they were going to have to take could be eliminated, and thus the seller, the manufacturer, could make more because they could sell more by selling it for less cost or less money, and that purchasers could save money because they wouldn't the manufacturer wouldn't have to sell it for quite as much money. So that was the real promise. Unfortunately, while that works in some cases, it doesn't work in all cases. In some cases, those intermediaries are very important. They provide additional value. They provide information about products and goods and services in ways that sometimes the manufacturers aren't very good at. Sometimes they do it in ways that are better than the manufacturer in terms of the ability of consumers or customers to be able to understand. So there are reasons for intermediaries. E-marketplaces certainly create a situation in which we are better able to right size the supply chain in an effort to make sure that we have the right number of intermediaries present in that supply chain. The text discusses two types of e-marketplaces: private e-marketplaces and public e-marketplaces. The text also covers public e-marketplaces in more detail in chapter 4, and so in this chapter it doesn't really dive into them too much. But within private e-marketplaces, it also identifies two different types of marketplaces: sell-side e-marketplaces and buy-side e-marketplaces. A sell-side e-marketplace is a private e-marketplace in which one company sells either standard and or customized products to qualified companies. This can occur in both a B2C environment or a B2B environment, and this is really kind of considered a one-to-many type relationship. On the buy side, a private e-marketplace in which one company makes purchases from invited suppliers. Again, it's a private e-marketplace, and this often occurs in the B2B environment, and it's considered to be a many-to-one relationship between the various buyers and sellers. Perhaps the most visible mechanism to support customer shopping is the use of a storefront, malls and portals, the web store. It's really what kind of creates an image into the customer of who the organization is that they're buying from. A web store is a single company's website where products or services are sold, usually has an online shopping cart associated with it. And many web stores target a specific industry and find their own unique corner of the market. As an aside to a web store, you've also got microsites. And a microsite really just refers to usually a single page, but perhaps just a few pages that are meant to kind of function as an auxiliary supplement to the main website. Typically it'll add additional information. Sometimes that information is just editorial comment about the company or about a product. But its main purpose is to support the primary website. E-malls are kind of like online stores or storefronts, except instead of representing just a single business, they represent various businesses or multiple businesses. So it's kind of like a mall in the physical world. eBay kind of gives you an example. You can go to ebay.com and you can purchase products from a variety of different vendors. Some of those vendors, that's how they do business. They do it through eBay. So it's basically just a gathering point for them to conduct sales. Now there's lots of different types of stores and different types of malls. There's general stores or general malls that sell all different types of products. They have a rather large market space. Examples include companies like Amazon or Walmart. Specialized stores are stores that really only sell a few kind of specialized products. They really focus on some type of a market niche. Things like shoes or books, flowers. 1-800 flowers.com is a good example. Newegg.com is an example for computer parts and peripherals. There's also regional versus global stores is another type of stores or malls. Um, and then lastly, pure play versus click and mortar stores. Pure online stores, virtual stores, pure play stores, such as Blue Nile, Amazon, Buy.com, Newegg, Cat Toys, etc. Those are virtual companies. They don't really have much of a physical presence. That's not their, at least not outward facing to customers. Versus the click and mortar stores are companies that really kind of have a foot in both camps, both in the physical world or as it relates to customers, as well as the virtual world, and being able to order online, for example. Walmart.com is an example of that. Believe it or not, 1-800-Flowers is as well. They have a network of stores. You can call them on the phone, place orders, as well as their website. Both of these last two types of stores and malls are discussed a little bit more in the next chapter. Another customer shopping mechanism are the use of web portals. A web portal is an information gateway. It's basically a point of access through a web browser, usually to critical business information located inside the company. So it's basically a way to kind of provide a neat little dashboard that has pertinent information and allows you to drill down to the specifics that you might need. There's a variety of different types of portals. There's a commercial or public portals, which offer content for diverse communities and are the most popular form of portals on the internet. So some examples include sites like AOL.com, MSN.com, Yahoo.com, and places like that. Corporate portals tend to be a little bit more specialized. They're organized to access rich content within a relatively narrow corporate and partner communities. So they're really geared around providing information for a specific company. So there's lots of examples of different companies that provide a portal for their customers, for their employees, etc., to be able to find relevant information to that organization. Another class of portals are publishing portals intended for communities with very specific interests. Usually these types of portals don't offer a lot of opportunity for customization, but they usually provide a lot of opportunity for search features. They give you a lot of different capabilities in terms of searching for resources through that portal. Some examples include ZDNet.com, TechWeb, etc. Personal portals are really targeted to specific individuals. They're ones that really allow you as an individual to customize it for yourself. So these are really kind of portals for you as an individual. Google, for example, has the ability for you to create a login for yourself and then customize your Google search page. And on that search page, instead of just being very plain, generic Google search page that you normally see, you can have the various features on it that you might like your email, a little brief window into your email, calendars, etc. Another class of portals are more mobile portals, which are really designed to be accessed by your various mobile devices. So the content is really created around the smaller screen size in order to be able to make it a little bit more user friendly. And lastly, voice portals, a portal accessed by telephone or cell phone. It's basically ones that are able to use voice to be able to access content, and they're able to read content that's out on the web and provide audio feedback of what that content is. AOL has such a service, AOL by phone, that allows users to retrieve email, check news, and retrieve other content from AOL via telephone. So here's kind of a graphical representation of how a portal might work. If you look at step one, you basically see that you've got a variety of different sources of information available to you, both from within an organization. School, for example, You've got different departments, different professors, different organizations within the university that give you a lot of different types of information. You've also got external sources of information. So it can really come from a variety of different places. And the issue is we need to figure out ways to creatively filter the information both internally and externally to a way that we can get down and drill down to only the information that we really need. And that's the purpose that we see in step 2. And then ultimately in step 3, where it's presented to us in a nice, neat format that's easy to consume. Okay, we've already talked about intermediaries a little bit, but the book talks about them several times throughout the chapter. I want to stress that intermediaries are not all bad. There are some necessary reasons to have them, particularly when they provide value-added activities and services to buyers and sellers. There are several different types of intermediaries. In the physical world, we typically refer to intermediaries, or the most common types of intermediaries in the physical world are wholesalers and retailers. So we typically in a supply chain will have the manufacturer who manufactures a product. They sell it to a wholesaler. Wholesalers will then sell those goods or services, goods usually, to retailers, and then we as consumers purchase those goods from the retailers. There's two major types of online intermediaries, brokers and infomediaries. Infomediaries are electronic intermediaries that provide and or control information flow in cyberspace, often aggregating information and selling it to others. There's really a couple of different types of infomediaries. The one offers consumers a place to gather information about specific products and companies before making purchase decisions. So think autobytel.com or cars.com or a company like that. Places where you go, you want to find a lot of information about a particular company, a particular product, something of that nature. You want to be able to make comparisons easily. The second one is not necessarily a web-based type of intermediary, but it provides vendors with consumer information that will help the vendor to develop and market their products. So it's kind of the reverse of that. It gives information to those companies. Another type of infomediary are e-distributors, an e-commerce intermediary that connects manufacturers with business buyers, customers, by aggregating the catalogs of many manufacturers in one place, the intermediary's website. An example of this type of company is Grainger.com that has a lot of different products from a lot of different companies, and they set up their own catalog to be able to sell these products. And it makes it very easy for customers to be able to come and purchase products. So they're an example of an e-distributor. Oftentimes companies like Grainger have some sort of e-catalog, as do a variety of other types of online businesses. An e-catalog is really kind of just the electronic representation of a standard paper catalog. It's the presentation of product information in electronic form. It's really the backbone of most e-tailing sites or reselling sites. That's what allows them to display their products, give product information, show prices, and things of that nature. A real advantage of e-catalogs over paper catalogs are that the amount of information that can be provided is much greater. You can provide much more dynamic content. You can provide much richer content in terms of being able to show products from different angles, quickly change colors, different photographs, things of that nature. But at the same time, pricing information can be adjusted very quickly and easily without having to send out updates to a paper that you might have to with a paper catalog. Being able to search is obviously of critical importance for organizations in terms of being able to find products in electronic catalogs and things of that nature. In general, there's three different types of searches that can be conducted. There's the general internet or web search, there's the enterprise search, and then there's the desktop search. The internet or web search is exactly what you're thinking of. It's going to Google and typing in the product name that you're looking for to find information about it. That's by far the most common type approach of approach that you're going to see. An enterprise search is a practice of identifying and enabling specific content across an enterprise to be indexed, searched, and displayed to authorized users. It's basically searching within a site, and that's probably the best way to sum up what an enterprise search is. Enterprises have the option of using a robots file to limit what search engines can index. And what that does is it allows that organization to kind of categorize the content that they have on their website and determine what they're going to make available to the outside world and what they're not going to make available to the outside world. The final type of search is the desktop search. Search tools that search the contents of a user or organization's computer files rather than searching the internet. So the idea is to find the sources of information that you've already downloaded or copied or installed to your local machine. To conduct web searches or internet searches, and oftentimes enterprise searches, often requires some type of a search engine, which is a computer program that can access databases of internet resources, search for specific information or keywords, and then report the results. So obviously Google is the dominant player in this space, but there are alternatives. There's AltaVista, for example, Lycos, Bing are probably some of the more popular ones. Kind of an offshoot of this are the use of software intelligent agents. These are basically tools that allow you to search for and get suggestions from your search engine. So they can do more than just search and match. It has the capabilities that can be used to perform routine tasks that require intelligence. For example, it can monitor movements on a website. It can help you to compare prices. It can help you to monitor activities. Basically serving as kind of an assistant. So PriceGrabber.com is a great example. It allows you to go in and search for a particular product. Then the intelligent agent portion of that search allows you to bring up that product that's offered from a variety of different sources and give you feedback about the prices at those different retailers, etc., or e-tailers, for example. Another type of search engine are question and answers online. A couple of popular examples of that are Ask.com and Answers.com. But they're basically intelligent search engines that allow you to pose a question and then hopefully find some sort of answer. Voice-powered search engines are ones that allow you to speak your search rather than typing in your search. This is obviously very useful for portable devices, smartphones, and small tablets where it's not necessarily as easy to type in your search term. Personally, I've got a Google tablet that this is a really neat feature. I can just state whatever it is that I'm looking for. I hit the microphone button, state whatever it is that I'm searching for. It interprets my speech and conducts the search. And then lastly, visual shopping search engines. Basically search engines that allow you to kind of interpret what something like red high heel pumps might actually mean, or floral pattern sleeveless dress, and gives you feedback about that. After a customer has successfully searched for, found, reviewed, and found the product that they actually want to purchase, they have to place it into their electronic shopping cart. And the analogy is to a shopping cart that you might have at the grocery store, where you gather together your various goods as you go through the grocery store, and you put them in your shopping cart and move to the checkout. Electronic shopping cart's the same thing. It's an order processing technology that allows customers to accumulate items they wish to buy while they continue to shop. The textbook talks about this in a little bit more detail, but I would point out on page 63, just before the end of the section, it talks about free online shopping carts. Trials and demos are available at Volusion.com and OneFreeCart.com. So you may want to check those out for your semester projects. Other mechanisms in merchant software that are important are other shopping engines. Obviously Google and MSN, Bing, things of that nature, Yahoo, are the big players in this market space, but there's lots of other search engines that are out there, other shopping engines that are out there. For example, one's called Info.com that allows you to search multiple search engines at the same time. So there's some of these specialized search engines that really kind of help you find specific types of information or specialized types of information. Audioinfo.com, flights.info.com, health.info.com are just a few examples. Another mechanism that's another mechanism that is extremely important as it relates to merchant software is product configuration, the ability to customize your product for sale. We want to be able to mass produce and sell the same product over and over again, but in order to gain a competitive advantage, if we can offer some customization options to customers, we're providing an additional service or additional value to those customers. So the ability to configure products or allow customers to self-customize products is something that's key to e-commerce success. Dell does a great example. They sell base machines that are already pre-built, so you can get the advantage of speed. Certain machines are already prepared, or you can customize a base configuration and add to it to get exactly what you want. And it's a way to provide an additional value-added service to your customers. The next section, section 2.5, auctions, bartering, and negotiating online, moves into the realm of auctions. An auction is a competitive process in which a seller solicits consecutive bids from buyers. This is a forward auction. Or buyers solicit bids from sellers, a backward auction, sometimes referred to as a reverse auction. And prices are determined dynamically by the bids. This idea of dynamic pricing is that prices that change based on supply and demand relationships at any given time. Maybe an easier way of thinking about it is that prices are not fixed, but they're allowed to fluctuate as supply and demand in a marketplace change. Think, for example, a hot afternoon at Six Flags. Is an ice cold Coke worth more when it's hot, or is it worth more when the temperature is comfortable outside? Most people are willing to pay more when it's hot. They may not like it, but they're willing to pay more. This works better in some industries than in other industries. Industries like the airline industry, where you've got a fixed number of seats on an airplane, it works quite well. When the plane is empty, they can reduce the price in order to try to sell out all those seats. As the plane fills up, those seats become more valuable, and they can raise the price. Traditional auctions have a variety of different limitations relative to e-auctions. For example, traditional auctions usually last really only a few minutes, maybe even a few seconds, depending on the items that are being sold. That speed a lot of times leaves certain buyers, potential buyers, out of the decision-making process. They can't form a decision quickly enough to be able to decide to bid or not to bid, so they stay out of it. Also, in some cases, bidders don't have a lot of time to examine the goods. You can't really look up information about it or anything like that because it's on the spot. In some cases, you physically have to be present at the auction in order to be able to make bids on an item. So as a result, you have a variety of people that don't participate. Also, there's increased costs that are associated with physical auctions. It takes time and money to move goods to the auction site. Commissions have to be paid for the people that run the auctions because the physical place where the auction is being held has to be rented, has to be advertised that the auction is occurring, and things of that nature. So there's a variety of different limitations to physical auctions, many of which e-auctions help to offset. Additionally, by moving auctions online, it provides for some very innovative ways in which auctions can be conducted. The book talks about a few different examples. It gives one about Warren Buffett, who auctions off lunch with him once a year to discuss investment advice, for example. The money raised in the auctions is given to charity. The book also talks about some examples by Harley Davidson, in which items that were autographed by Jay Leno and other celebrities were auctioned off, and the money donated to tsunami victims. And then another example was regarding JetBlue and auctioning off the vacation packages and flights as a few examples. So auctions can be used very creatively in an online environment in ways that really are much more difficult to conduct in the physical world. Okay, there's several different types of auctions or categories of auctions, if you will. They include one buyer, one seller and many potential buyers, one buyer, many potential sellers, the name your own price model, many sellers, many buyers, and penny auctions. And in general, those are some kind of broad classifications or types of auctions. The one buyer, one seller type of auction is really just more of a negotiation. It's where you don't have a fixed price, and a buyer is negotiating with a specific seller or haggling over a price. The one seller, many potential buyers type of auction is sometimes referred to as a forward auction. Is typically what we think of when we think of an auction. We've got one seller, they've got a good, a service, and they're allowing multiple people to bid on a particular item. So it's an auction in which a seller entertains bids from buyers. Bidders increase the price sequentially. So as each person bids on an item, the price it goes up. That's how the seller wants it. They want to be able to make additional money, so they want to push that price up. The one buyer, many potential sellers type of auction is sometimes referred to as a reverse auction. And perhaps many of you are a little bit less familiar with this type of model. The idea of this is where you have one buyer and they put out a notice that they're interested in making a purchase. And then you've got a variety of different potential sellers that are trying to bid on your purchase of their good or service. Now in this particular model, the price goes down. Why? Because the sellers are trying to sell you that good or that service. In order to be able to make that transaction occur, they've got to come in a little bit lower than their competing bids, the competing bids from other sellers. So it's a reverse auction where the price is being bid down. Sometimes this is referred to as a name your own price model. A good example of this is Priceline.com. That's what most people think about. You put out your price that you're willing to pay for a hotel room, or you mention that you're interested in purchasing a night's stay at a hotel or a particular trip, something of that nature. And the various companies that operate in that market space come to you with their bids, and they bid it down into a point until you're willing to accept it. Here's kind of a visual representation of what the reverse auction process might look like. You've got seller A who initiates the bidding process. They're offering X amount of dollars. Seller B comes in and says, you know what, I can sell this hotel room for just a little bit less. I'm going to place a bid for just a little bit less to the buyer. Seller A comes back and says, you know what, I don't want to lose this sale. I'm gonna place another bid. I'm going to come in a little bit lower. Seller B comes back and does the same thing. Says, I really want this sale. I'm going to reduce it even more. And then at the last second, you've got seller C that steps in and says, I'm going to really lowball this. I'm going to get this transaction. And they really lowball the sale of that hotel room. And the low price ends up winning. So that's the reverse auction in which the price actually goes down over time. Double auction is sometimes referred to as a type of auction where in a situation where you have many sellers and many buyers. And you might probably a typical industry or markets that you might see this in are the stock markets and commodity markets. Again, in which case you have many sellers and many buyers trying to sell various stocks, various other types of commodities. And then lastly, you've got penny auctions, which is really just another or a specific example of a forward auction that, in which case you basically pay for it upfront for a fee to participate in the auction, and then the bids for a particular item are incremented at very small levels, usually just a few cents, which is not typical in a traditional forward auction. What are some of the benefits of e-auctions? Well, really all the parties have some benefits that come from e-auctions, the sellers, the buyers, and the auctioneers for that matter. For the sellers, there's increased revenues from broadening the bidder base. In other words, if there's more people bidding, they're more likely to make money. There's an opportunity to bargain instead of selling at fixed prices. There's optimal price setting determined by the market. Sellers can gain more customer dollars by offering items directly, in other words, reducing some of the number of intermediaries. You can liquidate large quantities of items quickly, and you can have improved customer relationships and loyalty. Some of the benefits to buyers: they've got more opportunity to find unique items and collectibles. It's easier to find things because you can have these online auctions that pull in goods from around the world. In terms of entertainment, participation in e-auctions can be entertaining and exciting. Some people just really get into the thrill of the hunt, of tracking down a good, some type of item. There's convenience. Buyers can bid from anywhere, even with a cell phone tower. They don't have to they don't have to travel to an auction place, to the physical site. There's anonymity. With the help of a third party, buyers can remain anonymous. If you're physically there, it's kind of obvious who you are, or at least some obviously photographs can be taken and things of that nature. But it's a little bit easier to be anonymous in the online world. There's also the possibility of finding bargains for both individuals and for organizations. As far as auctioneers, higher repeat customers. Research has actually shown that auction sites such as eBay tend to garner higher repeat purchase rates than top B2C sites such as Amazon. There's also a lot of stickiness, or high stickiness, to the website, which refers to the tendency of customers to stay at sites longer and come back more often. Auction sites are frequently stickier than fixed price sites because customers are constantly having to come back to check the latest bid on the item that they're interested in. There's also easy expansion of the auction business. In other words, it's easy to add more and more goods. As with most things in life, limitations are all around us, and e-auctions aren't any different. There are limitations to e-auctions. Whenever we put something in an online environment, there's obviously security concerns. When we start talking about having to make payments using credit card numbers and things of that nature, we have security concerns about sharing financial and personal information online. There's also the possibility of fraud. When we put stuff online, because we can't physically pick up something and inspect it, there's the issue of fraud. So, for example, you see cases where baseball cards are sold, and it turns out that they're not the actual cards that were advertised. So there's the possibility of fraud. There's also the issue of limited participation. Some auctions are by invitation only, others are open to dealers only, so they're purposefully limiting their pool of potential buyers. Limited participation may be a disadvantage to sellers, who usually benefit from a larger pool of buyers, and because it helps to drive up the price. Also, buyers might not be happy if they're excluded from a possible auction in which they might be interested in some of the items. Related to auctions is the art of bartering and negotiating online. Bartering is the exchange of goods and services for other goods and services. E-bartering is just moving that into the online environment. So bartering conducted online, usually in a bartering exchange, which is a marketplace in which an intermediary arranges barter transactions. Examples of this include uexchange.com, swappace.com, and barterdepot.com. Online negotiating is another way of facilitating dynamic pricing. It's basically where negotiated pricing, or where pricing is negotiated. It's commonly used for expensive or specialized products. Sometimes it's used when the quantities are very large. So if you're going to order 10,000 of a particular product, you might negotiate the price. Negotiation also deals with non-pricing terms such as the payment method, timing, and credit. If you're paying cash, sometimes you're able to get a discount. The reason being that oftentimes there's an additional charge associated with running a transaction through a credit card. If you pay cash, the merchant can save a little bit of money, and so sometimes they'll offer a discount. Negotiation is a well-known process in the offline world, such as real estate and automobiles. Think about going to make a purchase at an automobile dealer. Usually you don't simply take the price that's printed on the sticker. You usually negotiate that price. In this sense, we're just talking about it in an online environment. Yet another tool that another effective tool that can be used in the realm of e-commerce are blogs. Building effective blogs is becoming easier and easier. There's a variety of different softwares that are available out there for users to use. For example, Blogger.com and Pedus.com offer easy to use templates and things of that nature to be able to set up your own blog. Corporations and various organizations have kind of jumped on the blogging bandwagon to the extent that they use blogs to be able to get out product information very quickly to people that follow those particular organizations. However, having said that, there are potential risks of those types of blogs. Obviously, there's the issue of potentially leaking sensitive information, potentially information about the company that may reveal trade secrets, or potentially making statements that may be considered liable or defamation. Bloggers can also be biased against a company and tint that company's reputation. So as a result, a lot of times companies have implemented internal policies to kind of guide the organization's use of blogging. A special category of blogging is referred to as microblogging. It's a form of blogging that allows users to write and publish messages, usually pretty limited in terms of the number of characters. 140 is pretty standard. And they can either be viewed by anyone or by a restricted group chosen by that user. Twitter obviously is the king of this domain space. Twitter is a free microblogging service that allows its users to send and read other users' updates. These are referred to as tweets, which are text-based posts up to 140 characters in length and posted to Twitter. The essentials of Twitter for business. Some of the major benefits of Twitter, or at least some of the essentials of Twitter for business, is it allows business to quickly share information with people who are interested in a company. It also allows them to gather real-time market intelligence and receive customer feedback. Obviously very valuable to an organization. It allows an organization to build relationships with customers, partners, and other people who might care about your particular company. As far as the individual, it allows the individual to tell the company whether or not they've had a good or bad experience, for that matter, with their particular business. Also allows you to offer product ideas. Hey, why don't you do this to your product? Why don't you do that to that product? Also allows customers to learn about great offers. Some of the major benefits of Twitter is that it gives an organization a chance to communicate informally and casually with a customer on their terms, creating a friendly relationship along the way. The reason that that's important is that it helps to shrink the emotional distance between a company and their customers. Because you're speaking on more casual term rather than the legalese that you might normally hear, it really kind of feels like you're talking to a friend rather than some wall that you might be speaking to when you're talking to an organization. It allows direct access between to a user or to a customer or a potential customer. It provides direct access to employees, which really kind of gives you and leaves you with the impression that this organization cares and is interested in responding to your needs. Examples of Twitter as an enterprise tool are really all around us. Dell uses Twitter, Pepsi uses Twitter, JetBlue uses Twitter. Twitter is all around us and is being used by virtually every organization anymore. Wikis are essentially a wiki blog, if you will. It's a blog that allows everyone to participate as a peer. Anyone may add, delete, or change content. The idea is that it's a collaborative effort in terms of building community websites. Wikipedia obviously is a great example. You've got an online encyclopedia in which various users can add content, they can review content, they can change, they can delete that content. It's really kind of an extension of a blog, which is where the term wiki blog comes in. Whereas in a blog, you usually just have an individual that creates that blog, and it may be opened up to various comments that you can have in response to the blog itself, but the content isn't changed except for the creator when the creator chooses to. A wiki, on the other hand, is really opened up for everyone to be able to participate as a peer, to be able to make those changes, delete or change content. As far as business applications for wikis, a great application for organization is to develop content or knowledge management systems, to be able to allow the organization to document processes, to document knowledge, to capture knowledge within an organization, so that as employees leave the organization, the knowledge of those employees doesn't leave the organization with them. Wikis are an ideal application to be able to capture knowledge management issues for an organization. Lots of these tools have techniques that you can use to facilitate finding information. For example, in Twitter, you can use tags to be able to identify and classify and find related information. A tag is a non-hierarchical keyword or term assigned to a piece of information, such as an internet bookmark, digital image, video clip, or any computer document. Think of a tag as kind of a hyperlink. It allows you, as a textual hyperlink, it allows you to categorize the text or the words around the tag with whatever it is that you write, yet at the same time, with that tag, when you click on it, it allows you to go to other postings that have used the same tag. So it allows you to categorize that information. This leads to the idea of a folksonomy, or collaborative tagging, sometimes referred to as social tagging, the practice and method of collaboratively creating, classifying, and managing tags to annotate and categorize content. So when you have a collective way of referring to something using a specific tag, this now becomes a practice for an organization, for a company, for a group, to be able to actively do it in a certain way to make sure that you're getting the proper categorization that you're looking for. Yet another social software tool are the use of mashups, which is a combination of two or more websites into a single website that provides the content of both sites, whole or partial, to deliver a novel product to consumers. A good example is the use of Google Maps. In Google Maps, a lot of times you can import data from a variety of different sources that allows you to kind of visually or graphically see the representation on a map. So for example, I like McDonald's. If I want to see the location of all the various McDonald's that are in the area, I can use a mashup to show me the various McDonald's on Google Map. Another tool is the use of social bookmarking. This is not something I really see a lot of value in, but there are some people who do. Social bookmarking is a web service for sharing internet bookmarks. The sites are a popular way to store, classify, share, and search links through the practice of folksonomy techniques on the internet and intranets. So basically, it's a way of categorizing different websites and saving them as bookmarks into classifications, if you will, and then share them amongst friends and other users. Section 2.7, Virtual Communities and Social Networks in the books, talks about virtual communities. A community is a group of people with common interests who interact with one another, usually based on similar interests, things of that nature. A virtual community is really pretty much the same thing. The only difference is they operate in an online environment, usually the internet. There are a variety of different characteristics of traditional online communities and their classifications. Some of the types of communities include associations. Think about the parent-teacher associations, for example. You may have communities that develop in order to bring those two groups together and to be able to talk and discuss issues that parents and teachers have. You've got affinity portals, communities organized by interest. MySpace, for example, back in 2010 became an entertainment social network. Other examples include communities that organize around vocations, political parties, trade unions, etc. Ethnic communities exist, for example, ones that pop up and organize around a specific country or around a specific language. Gender communities include ones that cater to specific genders. So, for example, women.com, a community, interest community specifically for women. Some cater specifically to young people, others to specific practices such as doctors and lawyers. Neighborhood communities, in which some cases newspapers create virtual communities to discuss local events, community events, to help users share photos, to share local news. Social networking sites, obviously Facebook, LinkedIn are good examples. And then virtual worlds such as Second Life. Other classifications of virtual communities could broadly be described as either being public or private, which are really pretty self-explanatory. Yet another classification scheme for virtual communities and social networks include, it's discussed on page 80, transactions, the purpose or interest, the relations or practices, fantasy, social networks, or virtual worlds. Online social networks can, as far as a definition and some basic information, a social network is really, it's just a place where people can come and kind of create their own space, their own homepage, their own identity online, really. It gives them a place to write about themselves, to write their blogs, to post and share pictures or videos and share music. Maybe they talk about some of their ideas and link to other web locations that they think are interesting and they want to share with their friends in the outside world. As far as the size of some of these social networking sites or organizations, obviously they're growing very rapidly. A lot of them are over 100 million users, or a number of them are over 100 million users or members. For example, Facebook had 750 million members in June of 2011. The typical annual growth of a successful site is 40 to 50% in the first few years, and 15 to 25% thereafter. And the idea is that they really need a lot of users. A social networking site cannot succeed unless they have a lot of users. The more users that they have, the more successful they will be, because they rely on those users to generate content, to share those photos, to share that music, to share those ideas. It's a global phenomenon. It's not something that's limited here to the United States. Obviously, here in the United States, when we talk about social networking sites, we talk a lot about MySpace, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. But the reality is worldwide there's a variety of competitors as well. Friendster, for example, Orkut, Mixi, Lunarstorm, just to name a few. So it's not just limited to here in the United States. As far as some of the representative capabilities and services provided by these various social networking sites, usually you can create some type of a web page, some type of a portal, some type of a presence on the web. You usually have a group of friends, a circle of friends or something that are linked together in some fashion. There's usually some type of forum to be able to discuss ideas and topics. There's usually a way to share photos, videos, and things of that nature. Wikis can be used to jointly create documents and blogs, and so there's a whole host of capabilities and services that are offered by social networking sites that largely are comparable across social networking sites. As with most things in life, the business world has taken the idea of social networks and tried to apply it in a way that makes sense for business, or allows business to become more efficient and make better use of their resources. And this is where the idea of the business-oriented social network comes in. A business-oriented social network is a social network whose major interest is business topics and whose members are professional people. Such networks are used mostly for creating contacts, providing requirements, and enlisting member support for problem solving and knowledge sharing. The prime example in this area is LinkedIn. It allows professionals to go on and create an online profile of themselves and link themselves, tie themselves together with other professionals in their community of practice. Business-oriented social networks allow individuals to establish new business contacts, to systematically expand and manage their contacts networks, to market themselves to employers in a professional business context, to identify experts and receive advice on virtually any business-related topic, to organize meetings and events, and to hopefully control the level of privacy and ensure that their personal data are protected. Some capabilities of business-oriented networks: to encourage customers to rate, or consumers to rate and comment on products, to allow consumers to create their own topic areas and build communities, forums, around shared interests possibly related to a company's products, to hire bloggers or staff editors who can lead more company-formatted essays and discussions that allow, but are not really driven by customer comments, as well as a whole host of other capabilities. These business-oriented networks really rely on end users or consumers or customers to generate an awful lot of that context. Business models and services related to social networking rely on customer reviews in order to generate revenues, at least in one sense. It's one way to make money is through customer reviews. Another one is through location-based services. Companies can advertise based on an individual's location by monitoring your location of your smartphone or your laptop or your computer. Yet another revenue model or approach to making money in this area is traditionally advertising. Ideally, we need to be able to monitor or analyze how effective we're being, and that's where social network analysis software comes in. And we use that to identify, represent, analyze, visualize, or simulate network nodes and how they're performing and how they're operating. And it gives us insight into an individual or a group's sphere of influence and how big their group is. And it allows us to start to determine, is that an effective group or community of interest that we want to pursue in terms of advertising and things of that nature. Some specific companies that kind of fall within some of these areas: Xanga. Xanga is a blog ring site. It's a site that facilitates the creation of blog rings, which are basically bringing together various bloggers that blog on a similar topic, and allows those bloggers to have their blogs categorized so that when a person is interested in a particular topic, they can see these various bloggers and their various blogs and read through those particular blogs. Another one is Digg, a community-based popularity website with an emphasis on technology and science. So they've recently kind of expanded to cover other topics such as politics and videos. Digg kind of combines the social bookmarking, blogging, as well as syndication with a form of non-hierarchical democratic control, editorial control. It allows users to submit news stories and websites, and then user-controlled ranking system promotes these stories and sites to the front page. So whichever stories are generating the most interest are the ones that get pushed up and get covered the most. Mobile social networking, mobile community activities, and social networking services are all really kind of tied together. Mobile social networking relies on social networking sites and smartphones essentially to be able to scale down some of the social networking sites' capabilities in order to facilitate their use in the mobile setting. It allows you to quickly and easily take a picture and post it online, to push a comment, to use location-based services to let your friends know where you are. And those are some of the services that social network services provide. Section 2.8 in the book, Virtual Worlds as an Electronic Commerce Mechanism, talks about virtual worlds and the use of avatars as a way to generate revenue for organizations. A virtual world is a user-defined world in which people can interact, play, and do business. The most publicized virtual world is Second Life. Essentially, you log in, you're able to walk around, you're able to see various buildings. Organizations will create a presence in Second Life. For example, Coca-Cola will have a presence in Second Life. You can visit their company, you can make purchases and things of that nature. You can read product literature. Virtual worlds such as Second Life rely on the use of avatars, which is an animated computer character that exhibits human-like movements and behaviors. So you're represented by an avatar in this virtual world. Your avatar can meet up collectively with other avatars in order to collaborate on various projects. For example, the book discusses IBM employees who get together to work on projects and share ideas, so that various avatars can be seen in this virtual world and facilitate that communication. Your avatars can also be used in research and marketing. For example, the book talks about on the top of on page 87, about Starwood Hotels constructing a prototype of a new brand of hotels that they were planning on rolling out, so that they could test them in this virtual world in terms of feedback from users. Virtual shopping can also be conducted, as I mentioned in the last slide. You can go to various organizations, various companies that have a presence in Second Life or in a virtual world, in a virtual environment, and assuming that they have it all set up, you can make purchases in that virtual world to be delivered. So you can essentially go into this virtual store and look at the various things that they have on the shelf, look at them, read about them, talk to an avatar of a salesperson in order to get feedback about this particular good, and then make your purchase all in this virtual world. You can also trade virtual properties. Space in these virtual worlds is obviously limited. By what? By hard drive space. So it creates this virtual real estate, and this virtual real estate can be traded like physical property. The last section of the book, 2.9, the future, Web 3.0 and Web 4.0, talks about the future of the web. We're currently in Web 2.0. So Web 3.0 really kind of refers to something that we don't know a lot about just yet. It's something that hasn't developed just yet. The Web 2.0 really has a lot of content in it that involves user interaction, user content generation. Web 3.0 is a term used to describe the future of the World Wide Web, and it consists of the creation of high-quality content and services produced by gifted individuals using Web 2.0 technology as an enabling platform. Now, a key component to what is seen as Web 3.0 is this idea of semantic web. Semantic web is an evolving extension of the web in which web content can be expressed not only in a natural language, but also in a form that can be understood, interpreted, and used by intelligent computer software agents, permitting them to find, share, and integrate information more easily. That's a nice formal definition, but what does that really mean? What it really means is that when we type in something into our search engine, that our search engine doesn't just look for the words that we typed into the search engine. It interprets the meaning behind those words and is able to find relevant content to the meaning of those words. In other words, when you say red car, it knows that you're talking about that you like this color red, and so it understands that there's various shades of red. It understands that you said car, you didn't say truck, you didn't say bicycle, things of that nature. So the semantic web is not only an understanding of the actual natural language, but the meaning behind that language as well. If Web 3.0 is hard to describe, Web 4.0 certainly is. But at this point, it's kind of seen as the generation as Web 3.0, obviously. It's still an unknown entity. It's currently envisioned kind of as being based on islands of intelligence and as being ubiquitous. In other words, being everywhere. As far as the technological environment, there's really been a couple of notable predictions that to describe Web 4.0. One was by McKinsey and Company, who basically came up with 10 tech-enabled business trends to kind of keep an eye on to keep an eye on. The idea that distributed co-creation moves into the mainstream. In other words, content is created by content providers from a variety of different places or spaces, if you will. So not just from companies putting out content about their products, but us as consumers as well. That's going to become much more mainstream, according to McKinsey and Company. Making the network the organization. In other words, our systems are what we're going to rely on completely. Everything's going to, our physical world is going to mimic what we do in the virtual world. Collaboration at scale, where everybody's going to collaborate. This is why it's so important to work on group projects, especially in a virtual environment, an online environment. Collaboration is going to be everywhere. The growing Internet of Things, in other words, pervasive computers. Computers are going to be everywhere. We have smartphones, we have tablets, they're in our cars. We expect computers to be everywhere. And then they go on through a variety of other predictions. There's another set of predictions by Nicholas Carr, who is a prolific researcher in the field of information systems. And he put out a free ebook in 2008 and made discussed several different trends, including more intelligent computers, larger and efficient data centers based on cloud computing, the use of virtualization, parallel processing, utility and cloud computing becoming the norm, etc. So if you're me, you kind of like a graphical representation. You like to visualize and see how this might look. And so the authors provide that to us here in our little 2x2 matrix here. And you can kind of see that we're moving kind of in a zigzag pattern from the bottom left ultimately to the top right. That our axis along the bottom is increasing social connectivity, which is certainly something that we've done. The web has moved from being very static and operating in isolation or in silos, so operating separately, to more of a social context. But the future really kind of is seen as being more semantic in that words have meanings, and so it's more than just what we type, it's the meaning behind those words. So the future really kind of entails our quadrant there in the top left, in which an increasing knowledge connectivity and reasoning, which is that axis, occurs. And then ultimately over into the fourth quadrant, if you will, the ubiquitous web, which connects intelligence. So if you're an organization, you're a manager for an organization, and you've just read this chapter, some of the things that you might be considering is whether or not your organization should start using auctions for selling. And that's an issue to consider if you're a manager. It may or may not make sense depending on the product, the good or the service that you're trying to sell. Should you barter? Again, something else that can potentially be an interesting strategy, especially for companies that lack cash. If you don't have cash, if you're a startup, bartering may be a good approach. How do we select merchant software? There's lots of products and lots of vendors that are out there that provide software that's available to organizations. Small businesses really ought to think about some of the online offers from Yahoo or eBay or things like that, because a lot of times they will offer hosting services as well, and it's a way to limit the investment that these small organizations might have to put up. How can we use Facebook and other social networking sites in our business? Well, there's a lot of possibilities here. We're going to talk about that more in Chapter 7, but certainly opportunities for advertising and marketing exist in these types of social settings. How shall we start using Web 2.0 tools? Well, it's like most things. You kind of dip your toe in it, and you start small and build up. Determine whether a collaborative tool would benefit a team or a group working on a specific project. People in the marketing department are often good first targets for information sharing with others because they're usually ones tasked with sharing corporate information. So think about blogs and think about some of the Google sites that you can create in order to facilitate collaboration amongst team members. Shall we take part in virtual worlds? Um, this is kind of a hard one. Virtual worlds are not real mainstream just yet. They probably will be someday, but they're not just yet. So that may be something to kind of step back from for a bit. Number 7, how should we deal with Web 2.0 risks? The book talks in more detail about some of the risks of Web 2.0. But some of the risks that you need to be wary of, depending on the applications. The knowledge from unreliable participants may downgrade the credibility of knowledge from open sources. To protect the security, get some outside legal advice, and use a risk expert for large projects to examine and evaluate the risks. To sum up for this chapter, chapter 2, we talked about some of the activities and some of the mechanisms of e-commerce. We talked about e-marketplaces and some of their components. We talked about the major types of e-marketplaces, and we talked about electronic catalogs, search engines, and shopping carts. We also talked about different types of auctions. There's a variety of different types, reverse versus forward auctions, etc., and some of their characteristics. And we talked about some of the benefits as well as the limitations of auctions. And then we talked about bartering and negotiating. We started talking about the structure and role of virtual communities. We talked about some of the Web 2.0 tools, such as social networks and blogging and things of that nature, social networking and an e-commerce mechanism. We talked about virtual worlds, and then the chapter finished up talking about Web 3.0 and 4.0. If you have any questions, be sure and email me. Take care.